Hey, I'm Corey, and I just wanted to show off current progress on Sentinels of Freedom. And so, jumping into the game here, and I'm a little bit through the intro. Went through the alleyway that was down here. You can see one of the thugs back there that didn't make it. And so we're in one of the engagements here, and up here I can see that I've got to save a hostage, as well as take care of these thugs that are kind of holding her in this level. So currently I've got Tachyon is my first hero I've got access to. She's definitely a great option to jump in here and do quite a bit of damage, so we're going to probably stick with that, but we can certainly swap between the two heroes that are in line. You can swap anytime you want to, but it's only the two heroes that are the first and the following hero. So currently down here we can see all of our actions and what type of attack they do. So a little bit different than some of the other games in that we have action words that define what type of attack they are. This is something, talking with Greater Than Games, that we were pretty excited about. And so it just adds a little bit of a different flavor to the game, but it also gives us a little bit more flexibility in what we can do from a design standpoint. As we go over the top of the abilities, you can see what the ability does, what type of attack it is, what its cost is, as well as you can see that the ranges are showing up as well, and even the type of attack it is. So this one, for instance, is a line attack, or a raid, and it's going to attack everything in that zone. So that's a pretty sweet attack that we'll probably start using here in a minute. And so as I move my cursor around, I can see what my action points are going to be, as well as my line of sight. So if I was able to get, which Tachyon can, all the way over here, I can see that I've got a good line of sight on the far left thug there, and it changes orange, meaning that it's not as great of a hit or line of sight on the lowest thug there. So first thing we're going to do is take care of this civilian here. We've got 2 rounds to do that, so it should be pretty easy. But I'm going to go here. Notice my speed is now set to mobile. Mobile, your speed is going to have a major impact on certain types of things you're trying to do in the game. So with melee, it's going to actually enhance your attack that you're doing, whereas in range, the faster you go, the less accurate you become. However, in being hit, using melee is going to allow you to, speed is going to allow you to avoid some of those attacks. And so movement is definitely a good thing, especially with a character like Tachyon, for instance. So in here I can see what my damages are going to be, even though I can get to the spot. The defender there is being blocked by line of sight, so I'm not going to go all the way through there. I've got a 100% chance hit, as well as I'm going to do somewhere between 24 and 34 damage. There is a damage roll that happens, just to see what that final output is. And so I'm going to go ahead and come in here. This guy actually made it. One of the new features we just added in, and we're going to change the size of them down here, but is when I go over the top of my different abilities, I can see how my abilities stack up against that particular enemy. And so it helps me hopefully make a better choice as to what I'm going to be doing. So this character right here, I tend to have not as great of attacks against, so they're either neutral or negative, whereas this character I have really great attacks against. And so that helps you decide, maybe I want to switch characters later on and take on a particular hero or a particular enemy. And then here I can go, and this shot is out of my range. This one is available. Over on the right, I can see that the defender is stationary. That's giving me a bonus, as well as I'm in the back arc of the defender, so arcing, facing Back arc, side arc, and front arc are all components of how you target someone. So those bonuses are making up for the fact that this is a bad matchup between my attack and their defense. You see I've got one red down arrow, which means it's not the worst case, but it's not great. The character's only got 12 hit points, and I'm going to do somewhere between 8 and 26, although it is a 100% hit rate. So we're going to go ahead and try this out, and took them out. So I can choose which stance I want to be in. There's no cost on this. So we'll go ahead and stay in hypersonic. Push the limits is typically going to hurt my health, and that's not something I really need to do right now, although I'm full health, so I shouldn't have to worry about it too much. Bunker, definitely a little slower. We noticed Tachyon we were able to get all the way over here with no problem. Bunker is definitely on the slow side. And so if we look over his abilities, I've got 3 action points for the cost for that one, as well as 3 on his grenade launchers. Grenade launchers are going to hit heroes as well, so we probably don't want to do that with Tachyon in there. I've got 8 total, so I could go, all the way up here pretty easily and still have an action point left. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I'm going to grab my burst cannon. Got an 80% chance, so it should be pretty good. So we can take this guy out. But it was a miss. Even 80%. So we'll have to hang tight. So Bunker is one of those characters where you're going to move him a little bit, get him into position, and hopefully do a lot of damage. We used up most of our action points just trying to get over here. And so that definitely impacts how much damage he can do. Now normally if this was a bigger match, I would switch over to turret mode, which is going to give me a vigilance action, which means he's going to start just unloading on everybody around him. This is a pretty short mission here, so it's not something we need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and end and stay in operations mode. We've got a couple thugs that are shooting here.
Ready and waiting.
Okay, and so one of the things we've got to be conscious of is time in the game. So some of the missions, including this one right here, we do have to get to the civilian within a certain amount of turns. So it is something we need to be aware of, but we should be okay. So I can look here and do my grapple swing if I want to. We can check it out, and also with a new ability, again, we can just do this and say, well, the stun bolt, which often is not quite so much of a stun, but more of a lethal stun, we can use that as well. So if I want to maximize my options, I can try and get behind here. And the stun bolt is going to do damage, in this case a lot of damage because it was a good matchup, but also if they were to survive, it would take away 2 of their action points. So it's pretty awesome, especially against some of the larger enemies that you want to kind of reduce what their capabilities are. So I have 3 action points left. It's going to take 3 to go over here to assist. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Notice I get a health bonus when rescuing civilians. It's just kind of a thanks for helping me out type thing. So civilian's going to take off, hopefully make it to the objective. Almost made it. Tutorial components talking about vigilance, again, front, side, and back. And so now we're back onto a new initiative. This is going to change every time. Your speed does have a factor on your initiative. And so in this case, Wraith was one of the, had a bonus. Now Tachyon also moved a long distance, but a good portion of that was through her attack, which is not accounting for that speed. But there's still a bit of randomness there too, so even though Tachyon did move a lot, Wraith was the one that leads the charge here. Although again, I can swap those characters around.
Ready and waiting.
If I want to. And so I'm gonna go over here, see if we can finish this one off. And take it out. So we're all set there, and now we just gotta wait for our trusty civilian to make it to the exit. Go ahead and end those turns, and there we go. Alright, so we're back at it. So the whole part of the beginning story and the tutorial, and also just kind of your first real action moments, are responding to a bank call. So here we find ourselves outside of the bank, and this has definitely turned into more than what the police were expecting. So that's why you as heroes are called in, because this is something that feels a little bit more extreme than that, and the story element that we skipped over before this has Freight Train leaving the bank, but there's still something going on inside. And so with a supervillain involved, you certainly know that this is not something that the police are going to be able to handle here. So again, I've got my initiative bar here. We have a lot more enemies than what's showing up here, because enemies can work in squads. And so that's something to be mindful of, that enemies can come at you from, with multiples in a turn. We've got a couple civilians that will be, we can rescue. It's part of a secondary objective. But you do get a health bonus from that, and it's also just a good thing to do with being a hero. One thing I do want to mention in this is that there are some things that we're still working on and polishing. So if you see those, feel free to hit us up and just ask us some questions of, hey, what is that, or is that going to be final, or whatever in the game. So. But I've got quite a few guys here. The solid circle around the bottom indicates that a character has not yet activated. And so those are prime targets, if possible, to get in there and hopefully take some shots out of the initiative before we get hit. So I can look here at Tachyon. I've got that great hypersonic assault attack here. I could also switch over to my push the limits. It's going to cost me a couple action points to do that, but if I can get in the middle of all this, the sonic vortex is going to be pretty sweet, in that that's going to let me do a lot of damage to a lot of people. Notice that as I do that, over on the left under Tachyon's portrait, you can see that it's highlighting her action points and her health. And push the limit, she's actually going to take a little bit of damage when she does those, so that's something to be aware of. So if I was to calculate this out, getting into here is going to cost me about 3 action points if I want to get into the center of that, and so that put me down to 5. Switching is going to cost me 2. You can see here it costs 2 to change, so I'd be at, that's 5 total, and then I've got 3. The one thing that could change that is if anything stops me from getting there, maybe a vigilance action or something like that. So it is a little bit risky to get all the way over there, so I might stick with her hypersonic assault and see if we can do a little bit more damage through that. So I'm now up to Speedy. This is great. Notice this back thug here has got cover from the one in front. So we'll go ahead and hit these 2 guys. Take those out. And now, if I plan that right, I should be able to hit this guy. It's not as good of an attack, but it's still, it's a neutral, so I'm still going to do a lot of damage. So go ahead and get them. And he's got 4 health left, unfortunately, so that means he still has a chance to be able to hit me. Because she moves so much, she's still in a pretty good spot as far as being able to hopefully not take too much damage. So notice that we've had 3 attacks come in and nothing's happened. Now this thug definitely walked into the wrong area. So we can check out our different abilities, or again, I can do this. So if we look over, the defender's speedy, but I'm in the back arc. So this is the best chance I'm going to have hitting him because he's in the speedy category. He moves so far that that's something that is tough to overcome. I could also, look at maybe this thug here if I want to try and activate it. But I'm going to go ahead and take the shot here and see what happens. So, good amount of damage. And move up here. Notice that one death animation there. That's one that we're going to be updating. There's multiple different death animations that can happen when a character loses all their health, and that's one that needs to be, looks like, a little cleaned up. So now we've got Wraith. We've got 4 action points left. Typically, in this case, I'd be using her Razor Ordnance. So I probably don't want to use more than 1 action point to go any further. So I'm going to move up here. It did update my speed. I'm going to take a risky shot here.
One down.
Got him. So even with a 9%, I was able to make that hit happen, and so that was definitely worth the risk. So now we've got Bunker. We've got a couple thugs up at the top here, as well as one over here. So I'm going to go ahead and take this lone thug out over here. And that particular shot, if I go over this, notice that I got a double arrow down. So that was a really bad matchup between my attack type and their defense. So even though I had a good chance of actually hitting, the quality of the attack was pretty low. And then because it was such a bad matchup, the damage roll that happened, I actually took a overexertion or overextended kind of field, and so I lose an action point in there. And so it kind of discourages you from taking those bad shots. So we want to get Bunker into the middle of things, so I'm just going to go ahead and move him up here and switch him to turret mode and see if we can do a little bit. It's not the best place for turret mode, just because it kind of reduces how often he's going to be able to shoot, but I wanted to kind of show that off.
Standing by.
And this is probably an obstructed shot here. You can check it out. So Bunker's got pretty good range on this turret mode. Really low chance of hitting there. We're going to take this one. Okay, I'm going to pop out of that and get to a better spot.
Yes.
Going to try and catch both of these guys.
Ready.
All right, so we've got Wraith here. I think I want to go ahead and help Tachyon over here. Bunker can probably handle himself.
On it.
Again, this is a new feature we added, so It's one of those things I need to get more in the habit of doing. So as we go in here, we've got Razor Ordnance is going to be probably my best matchup. So 80%.
But I'm also taking notes.
We also have a sync action, which is what Tachyon just did there. So sync actions are when heroes assist other heroes in types of attacks. So it could be some things like with Bunker, he gets an assisted reload if a hero is actually next to him when he's doing shooting actions, and so he'll gain an action point back. Whereas in this case, Tachyon is near the target of Wraith, and so then is able to assist in that. So I can take this shot here. It's not a great shot. I think it's a pretty low chance of me losing one of those action points like I mentioned before. So it's a matter of, do I want to take that extra shot or just kind of get into a better position and save one of my action points for next round. I think I'm going to go ahead and take the shot, which missed, but we'll go ahead and...
Hands to yourself.
So there the enemy also has the same restrictions. So they took a shot on Tachyon, and the first time was a bad shot, so they actually lost some of the ability, some of their action points. So not a great shot. Again, bad matchup, but trying to get some damage in. And let's see. There we go.
I'll help, but I'm also taking notes.
Good strategy.
Thank you, Bunker. So we're gonna move up and see if we can take on the few remaining thugs here. That's not a great shot. That's a little better. Wasn't able to punch the damage through though. So Bunker also has his grenades. So here I can kind of notice that I can go behind and get a higher chance. So as I've got an 80% hit rate here, and notice that goes to 60 and 50 here. So definitely has an opportunity to hit behind. And we can check too far out of range there. So looks like the grenades are going to be the best option I've got.
Standing by.
Okay, so now we've kind of triggered a new event here. So Fright Train had run out of the bank, and now he's going to start shooting artillery rounds at the heroes from off screen. So these are indicated by these circles here. So we're going to have to avoid being in these zones at the end of the match. And we've definitely got some additional thugs that have shown up. So great time for Bunker to get into turret mode. Alright, so grenade shot, good opportunity. You got two 90% chances. I can also use burst cannon. I'm going to go with that grenade shot. And I'm going to reposition a little bit more in the center here, and then end with an extra action point. So they'll retain one. So now Bunker's kind of in the middle here, and hopefully we can get some Overwatch action going.
Hands to yourself.
So Bunker's super powerful, but again, we obviously have the negative of him not being able to move, and so that's something that thankfully his Overwatch accounts for. So
That'll buff them.
yeah, one of the villains lost some action points for next round.
Well done.
And let's see here. Give that a try one more time. Got him. So trying to optimize Tachyon's movement here. Actually, let's see if we can hit these two thugs.
Could be worse.
So missed both of those and also triggered a vigilance action. She's going to use her last action point to give Bunker evade, so he's actually triple set up here. So if they do shoot him, he actually has 3 defenses at this point, and when you do that, the amount of resistance to things is pretty heavy. So now I'm in one of the blast zones, so I definitely
Try
want to
something new.
get out of that.
Affirmative.
It's not a great shot there. Nothing like a point blank round to the back of the head. So I think we'll stay there. Switch over
Time
to
for a
turret
change.
mode. Alright, so basically in this one we're trying to hold out outside the bank, take care of as many thugs as we can, and then we've got some awesome surprises that happen at the end of this one that we'll talk about later. But basically just wanted to show off kind of how the game's looking, what's going on with the feedback, types of attacks, how things are being calculated, that kind of thing. So, and by the way, there's a full options menu, so if this kind of thing starts to bug you when there's a lot of enemies, you can turn that off. So you can say, I don't, want to see that line of sight, and there is an action you can do on the keyboard when you're on a PC to actually engage that as well. So, but hopefully you enjoyed just kind of seeing the game. We are in a spot now where we're able to start kind of showing things and not feeling like there's going to be a whole lot of things that you're going to be picking on. And we are still in polish phase, but it definitely, I think visually is in a better place than it was. And so that was one of the concerns we had, is that you guys would see stuff and get a little nervous and not knowing where the game is at. But like I said, we're now in polish and balance phase to get everything ready for part 1 coming early next year, and we should be posting quite a bit more frequently. So also got some really fun just things to show you with some stuff like with Unity and some of her summons that are really pretty fun. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and feel free to hit us up with any questions, either through the Kickstarter post there, or if you want to, you can also reach us on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll make sure we get back to you and answer any questions you might have. So thanks a lot.